Thank you so much again for your time and the interview about MISS MARX. We're really happy to have MISS MARX as German premiere at our festival this year. And yes, first of all, I would be interested to know how the collaboration between you and the director, Susanna, came about.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, and we are very happy to have our film in Berlin, opening your beautiful festival. Yes, actually, I know Susanna since really many years. We both studied philosophy, so we knew each other, but not very well since the university years. And then when we created Vivo Film with Gregorio Ponessa, my partner in life and also in profession, many years ago we had produced a documentary film directed by Susanna. So we had met really, we had worked together around 2007, something like this. After that, Susanna did her two first feature film with another production company, and then we met again, like professionally again. We had been in touch and see each other once in a while, but then she came back to us, I think back in 2015, something like this, and thinking that she wanted somehow to discuss some possible projects with us, and we were of course interested in her, and so she pitched us like 2-3 different ideas, and one of them was like the idea of making a film on Nico, and we really fell in love with that idea. And we started working on that project that seemed to be a bit crazy because it was a film set all over Europe, and it was also, a complex project about the story of this great singer and somehow one of the most beautiful women in the world. But Susanna decided to tell the story of her last year, so the story of someone who is not so beautiful anymore, but maybe enjoys life more than when she was on top. And that's, and we worked and we produced Nico 1988. And that was really a wonderful experience, and which really, bonded up a lot. And so there was the wish, the desire of working together again. And Susanna had the idea of MISS MARX, of making a film on the story of Eleanor Marx, which we also liked, and so we developed the project and made it. And now we are working again together on a new project.
That's interesting. And the film was created in a very international production context, as co-production between Italy and Belgium. How did it come to this?
Yeah, again, it comes from the experience we had with Nico 1988. Basically, it's really the same team of producers. Again, Nico was really a good experience, and so we decided not to change the team. And also, when we were trying to understand how to make Nico, to produce Nico, we had the first moment where we traveled to UK to see if we could do. That film was partly set in Manchester, so we went to Manchester to see if we could shoot the film there, and we realized that England nowadays is a very complex, it's a very, of course, expensive country, but also it's a country which has been renovated and transformed so much that it's really hard, to find in that case of Nico, it was like a film set in the 80s. It was really, almost impossible to find pieces of reality that you could adapt to our story. And so instead we discovered that Belgium was really interesting because, you have all these somehow post-industrial situation in Belgium that are, from the architectural point of view, very close to, UK architecture, but less renovated, much more convenient in a way. So we already had this experience of how Belgium could fit England, of course, in another period. So we had the great also experience with our co-producers of Tarantula. So we immediately started to look for locations in Belgium, also for MISS MARX, and we found very good locations, and so the collaboration totally made sense again from an artistic point of view and also from production point of view.
Mm-hmm. And you already said that you focus on the last years of your life, and it's interesting. And also, I think the topic of historical biographies is always really interesting. In this film, you try to make an authentic portrait of Eleanor Marx. So did you, first of all, there was research, or did you try to, I don't know, just to use the history and to develop it, or how did you use?
When I was speaking about last years, I was speaking of Nico, because the film on Nico is really on her very last years. The MISS MARX is a film which starts with the death of Karl Marx and ends with the life when she commits suicide, which I don't think it's a spoiler because she's an historic figure. Again, Susanna, I think the way Susanna works, I find it super interesting, because she's working on these biographical films, but really taking a precise angle and perspective. And then she works a lot on the sources. She's a huge researcher, so she has read a lot of books on her life. She has studied her letters. She has really collected a lot of material, and honestly, the process of writing was quite articulated, because the story of Marx family is super interesting. So I remember that when she wrote the first treatment of the project, which was focused on Eleanor, but also it involved more years and also the story of her sisters. In a way, we concluded, okay, but that could be a beautiful film, maybe a series called the Marx Sisters, which also plays well as a title, because it was really a wide material. And then slowly we together, and she understood that she should more focus on a specific path of Eleanor Marx, and the basic idea again was like to work on this on what seems to be a contradiction, because she is a very independent and well-educated and advanced woman, someone who somehow seems to be in the future. She's so able to have a vision of how women can develop themselves on one side, and on the other side she remains somehow victim of some structures, some relationships, some toxic relationships that then maybe cost her life. We don't know why she commits suicide, but it seems to be that these elements, very contradictory elements, were a very interesting space for an exploration in a film.
Yes, I think the relationship is really interesting, and I always wonder myself, why is she on the one side so emancipated into women's rights and doing so many interesting things moving forward, and then there is this relationship she sticks in. And I wonder why she didn't make to detach herself.
Maybe that's an impossible question, but also that's, I think, why it's interesting to make such a question through a film. When we produced MISS MARX, it was on a way relatively easy, because it was, in a way, it was a strong subject. We were coming from a success, because the previous film was very successful, and so, you know, on one side we really got a lot of interest. But all the critics or all the people who were not convinced, and this is also still valid when, you know, now that the film is traveled and people watch it, you know, sometimes people have problems with this thing, because, you know, in a moment where we are so keen on stories on women empowerment, somehow, you know, this is a more controversial story. And so, and of course, this is a layer of complexity in the project, because somehow we tell this story in a way from a feminist also point of view, but also, you know, exploring contradictions. And for me, this is super interesting, because I think that as a woman, you know, I'm maybe myself, I'm lucky. I'm not. I've never been stuck in such a toxic relationship. But I think that all the women, someone more, someone less, somehow can relate to these kind of problems, which comes from centuries of cultural influence, that even, you know, our awareness are not maybe so able to overcome so quickly. And then this is also beyond only women issues. This is about maybe contradiction, fragilities, and vulnerability of human beings.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think you found a really great actor with Romola as main protagonist, who, yeah, support or transports this contradiction in a very, really good way. How did you find her as main actress?
Yeah, I mean, we love her. I really think she gave a wonderful performance. We are working with a UK casting director, very good one, called, her name is Gail Stevens, and, you know, we have looked a lot of actors. I must say the level of UK actors is really good. So we went through many possibilities, options, and then at one point she suggested Romola, and Romola really connected immediately to the story and clicked to it and decided to come on board. And I must say she was always totally focused. She's someone who is really in control. So I think this is very interesting, because, you know, we were looking for someone who could be believable, because Eleanor is like an intellectual. So, and when you, for example, when she gives the speeches in the film, you need someone who has that kind of also it's able to deliver that kind of intellectual charisma that makes, you know, that part of the film believable. And at the same time, you know, then you need someone who is such a good actress that can, you know, become fragile and show the vulnerability.
What is also really special about the movie is the score. I really like the music, and it's also somehow contradictory to the visual style. Yeah, why did you choose the punk music?
Yeah, I mean, this is Susanna is like a great knower of contemporary, like of rock and punk music. She really like she a great listeners, I would say. So she music is really important for her life and is important for her cinema. And then, you know, the idea of the film was a little bit like having some sort of flash forward, you know, like that Miss Marx was connected. Eleanor is someone who is connected to the future somehow. She has a vision and she's connected to the future, and so the music was a way to play it with this flash forward. And so Susanna has her a steady cooperation with an Italian band, but also for this film, we also involved, this punk Seattle-based band, and they cooperated together and to create, the track record of the film. So the Italian band Gatto Ciliegia, they made this, electric version of classic music, while we used, this other American band because they work on communism. They've really written an album whose title, if I'm not wrong, is Post-Communism. So, we used their scores, and then, we commissioned them this version of the International, this punk version of International.
That's great. And one last question. You told me that you're working on a new project. What is it about?
It's about Saint Chiara, Santa Chiara. So in a way, Susanna conceives it as a sort of third chapter of a trilogy on female condition in the history, and these three characters and real women, so Nico, Eleanor, Marta, and Chiara. So it's and the more we go on, we go back to the past, and I mean, it's a little bit banal, but it's a sort of feminist version of Chiara. It's like a film on how revolutionary was Chiara's thought, and how, in a way, a way to embody the message of St. Francis was even more radical than St. Francis one.
Sounds really interesting, and I really look forward to see it probably in next year probably. Yeah.
Second half of next year, let's say. We start shooting in 15 days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for the interview and for your time.
And I hope the audience will enjoy the film.